So good afternoon, Bill. So here we are about to do our second podcast of the day on a drizzly, cold, wet Geelong day.
Yeah, I thought things were improving, Mark, but I guess it's that time of the year, isn't it? It's unpredictable.
It's unpredictable, though I am a little nervous about all the talk about how hot our summer's going to be and the concerns about bushfires. And as you know, I live in Ocean Grove, and there's already been a movement to say, the Ocean Grove Nature Reserve could be a massive tinder point. And we've just got to learn to live with the bush a little bit, but anyway.
Just a minute ago, we were talking about the hurricanes in Florida today.
Yep.
And fortunately, we don't have that here yet, I guess.
Thank goodness for that. So, Bill, tell us about this afternoon's guest.
All right. Great to have you here, Robert. Robert Sloan, who is Director of AKT Project Management, which is construction management. And I must admit, I've known Robert to say hello to, but I really don't know what he does or the details of what he does. So that's why we're keen to get him along today and find about a bit more. And our listeners hopefully will also find out a bit more and understand a bit more about construction management. And
I second that because I remember chatting to Robert in the laneway that had been broken through in between Little Mallop and Mallop Street. And I thought too, I wonder what he does.
So welcome, Robert.
Great to be here, guys. Thank you.
Yeah.
So, Robert, I suppose we'll start where we try to start with everybody. Where was primary school?
So I grew up in Tamanick, which is up in the northeast near Glenrowan, Wangaratta. Went to a small country town school called Thuna. And Thuna is close to what used to be Lake McCowan. So I grew up on a farm there, and until...
Oh, stop. Another farm boy.
Another farm.
How many times have we interviewed people and they've come
amazing.
off fights?
Yeah.
Come off farms.
So what's
sold to the earth.
What was your farm? What was the parents' farm?
So we had, amazingly enough, my parents raised 5 kids on a square mile block. Now, you wouldn't be able to do that these days, but they had sheep and also beef and did lupins and barley and wheat as well. So, yeah. And my dad ran that farm. He was actually a farmer from 14 years of age.
Wow.
Back up in Ultima near Swan Hill. So they moved to Tamanick and then ran the farm until I was about 18, and then we moved into town into Wangaratta.
So at an early age, were you involved in the farm, milking and all that sort of stuff?
Totally. Yeah, shearing sheep and all those sorts of things. So it's pretty hands-on. Everybody was pretty hands-on. It was good.
Yeah, five free labourers.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I was the youngest of the 5, so everybody had moved away by the time I was about 14. And so, I was the single labourer that did everything with mum and dad. So
good grounding. Good grounding.
Oh, that sounds familiar, Mark. My 3 elder sisters all went to boarding school in Melbourne. So I was the only one left. At one stage, we had a farm in Cobram. I was the only one left.
Yeah,
right.
Yes.
So on to high school?
On to high school. I went to Technical College at Wangaratta. And then in year 11 and 12, I moved across to high school because I wanted to concentrate more on the maths and science. So we moved across to there and, finished year 12 at Wangaratta High School.
And what was your dream at end of year 12? Where would you see yourself going?
Well, I thought I wanted to do like industrial design, which was my guidance counsellor said it was called mechanical engineering.
Yep.
So I got into mechanical engineering, went to RMIT in Melbourne, found out that it's not industrial design, it was actually air conditioning design. Within 2 weeks, I spoke to the lecturer and said, hang on a minute, this is not industrial design. He said, no, it's not. I'm in the wrong faculty. And so for the next 6 months, tried to change. So by mid-year, I decided to take 6 months off. And that's where I changed my mind and went into architecture. So I applied all around Australia for architecture and got into Deakin, into Geelong here. So that's where
that's the
my
transition.
year started at Deakin.
And a good place to do it too, that's for sure. And what was the very first job you ever, a paid job, not a slave labour job at the farm?
Yeah.
What was your first paid job?
Mowing lawns at a motel in Wangaratta. I walked up and down the street asking for work anywhere. Got interviewed for KFC, and I actually found out that I'd got that job, but they never told me until we got a letter in the mail asking me why I wasn't turning up to work. And so, but I enjoyed doing the mowing of the lawns and working at the motel because they were pretty flexible, so I enjoyed that time.
So out of Deakin, where did you go as a qualified architect?
Yep. So graduate architect. It was in '91. So we saw some of the graphs today, where in '91 there was a downturn.
Yep.
So it's pretty hard to get a job as an architect. So I actually got a job at Deakin University Buildings and Facilities, which was pretty hands-on. It was great. We were doing construction management of some major buildings out at Warren Ponds. And that was a really good time because we were actually working with the construction management team. My last job after finishing up, well, as I was about to finish up at Buildings and Facilities after about 4.5 years, was the wool stores.
Oh, wow.
So I actually worked with David McGlashan of McGlashan Everest, and we documented the Great Hall. So I actually put the Great Hall on CAD, and that was a fantastic time. So
what a great renovation of a building that's turned out to be. You know,
Beautifully done.
I'm a little bit older than you blokes, and as a kid in Geelong, that or the pier as it's called was actually a working pier, and they used to load wool bales onto ships going back to the UK, and I remember as a kid running around in that building full of wool bales. And what it is today is spectacular.
Yeah, well, we actually made a recommendation for Deakin to actually purchase the block of land next door, which now the convention centre is going to be built on. So Deakin ended up buying that based on our recommendation. We did a full development review of that, and Deakin ended up buying that. They were nearly going to buy the pier as well, but it didn't sort of stack up.
That's interesting. So was that where you thought you'd end up working then, when you came out of architecture, that you'd actually get into project management as such? Or you just fell into it with that?
Yeah. So I ended up working at a number of architectural practices in Melbourne for a few years. Ended up being practice manager for a practice in Collingwood. And during that time, I was exposed to some large projects where there were project managers actually delivering the projects. And I was never a designer. It was very apparent that I was not a designer. I was a project architect. And that showed me that there was some missing link between the project managers that were representing the clients and getting it wrong, not advising the clients well, not utilising the consultants correctly. And I felt like maybe that's what I should be doing. And then I got invited to be part of the redevelopment of the State Library Victoria. And so that was my first project management role from client side. So I was actually employed by the State Library Victoria to represent the library. And I ran 2 redevelopments stages there, and ended up being the property manager for the State Library for about 6 years.
And there's another renovation of a building that has been done very well.
That's
for
superb
sure.
up there.
Oh, it really is. I still, from my student days, I think we studied, or we might have mucked around in there. But so all that sort of experience, just moving forward, why Geelong?
Geelong's just a great place to bring up kids. It's a lot cheaper than living in Melbourne. You've got the opportunity to work in Melbourne and take up the resources for Melbourne, but you've also got the coast and very much just a cleaner, clearer lifestyle. It's been great to bring up 2 kids, be married here, bring up 2 kids, great schools and so on. So we've always loved it. So it's 35 years now.
Just, Mark, we go back to our podcast of a week ago, or that's been posted when this goes out. we spoke about a breakfast we went to this morning with Westpac Bank. And, Robert, you were at the same breakfast, although we didn't see you there. And I was fascinated by a slide that Bill Evans put up that showed that the percentage of your income to service a home loan in Melbourne versus Geelong. Did you take notice of that slide?
Astronomical.
Wasn't it? I was shocked how the difference and how expensive it is as a percentage of your wage to service a mortgage in Melbourne.
Yep.
And that's because the price is so much higher, of course. Yeah,
and I think that's a really lifestyle choice. The fact that both parents need to work until the end to actually be able to pay that off. The kids, need to go to school as well, and you need to live that lifestyle. You need that time and availability to actually be part of a family, which is really important.
So coming back to your project role at the State Library, do you always like working in historical old buildings? Have you got a bit of a passion for that?
Yeah, definitely. And it's interesting because I did my thesis on relifing old buildings, heritage, old warehouses and so on, and just the opportunity that's there to do that. So it was fantastic to be part of the wool stores here in Deakin, and then to be able to do that for the State Library. During that time that I was there, we celebrated 150 years of the State Library, which was fantastic. The dome was opened. There was a whole lot of really historic heritage issues, but also as a property manager, being responsible for such a historic building was it was a really great experience.
Was there anything you discovered while you were working on it that you went, oh, we didn't know this was going to happen?
We found we found a lot of collections they didn't realise they had. A magic collection of apparently a famous magician that was based in Melbourne, the box where you cut people in half and all those sorts of things, which is pretty amazing. A lot of paintings, a lot of artwork, some hidden areas where there was some old books that people never knew existed, things like that. It's just an incredible
just in
space.
Nooks and crannies and
Yeah,
that's amazing.
no skeletons?
Not that I know of. No.
Oh, sorry, the old jail's across the road.
That's it. Yeah,
that's right.
Because it is a superb building. Because I've been a couple of times just to walk around the dome, and it's just amazing building.
So, Robert, is there any one building besides that we just spoke about that you sort of can hang your hat on and say, "Gee, I was proud to be involved with that"?
Yeah. So, I mean, interestingly enough, it's kind of not necessarily an iconic building, but it's one where we really turned the whole business plan around and made it, something special, in my view anyway. And that is, from my point of view, there's one on the corner of Mallup and Moorabool Street, which is where K-Rock is at the moment.
Yep.
And that was an opportunity to turn a building around to be something that had a presence within the centre of Geelong, to actually have elements on it that actually brought back income to the owner, and then make sure that it maintained relevance and it actually kept up with the new buildings that were being done at the time. So that's one that I kind of look at as being more of a presence within the urban environment. So that's one.
The old Commonwealth Bank.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
been there for
and
years.
And I think LBW accountants were up the top of that building at one stage.
Yeah,
too.
at one stage. Yeah, correct.
Because I remember getting in a clunky old lift and it's a superb building inside there.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about the other two already, which is the the State Library and the Great Hall at Deakin. And they're great because you can actually go back and see the legacies of some of the decisions that we made along the way that have actually changed the life of those.
Do you know the history of the old ES&A Bank diagonally opposite the Geelong Town Hall that's got the brick cladding around it?
Oh, yes.
I'm told that behind that brick cladding is a bluestone building.
Apparently.
Yes.
Yeah. Can't wait.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Well, I know it's...
Well,
it was internally, it's got the old bank feel about it.
Yeah, well, I know that the ex-Geelong CEO Kelvin Spiller,
Yeah.
I remember him telling me one day when we were standing at the front of that building that I think his father was the bank manager there.
That's
And
he
it,
was.
and
Yes,
it
I
had been
heard
cladded up because the stone was deteriorating, and they thought it as a way of protecting it and just getting rid of an expensive issue that was about to happen.
Why not?
Well,
So you hide it.
that's right, Robert. You we were discussing before we started the podcast about a building that you're doing in Melbourne, and you took over from the remnants of a building company that ceased to exist in the current climate.
Yeah.
Just tell us about the process of that.
Yeah. So one key starting point is it was a great relationship that we have with the owner, a developer that is a private company, family company, that we delivered quite a number of projects for them. They had an issue where the builder was actually going into liquidation. And so we needed to make sure the building was finished so that they could actually lease the building, maintain some stability with their current subcontractors, and make sure we got it across the line from a design point of view, because it was a design and construct of a refurbishment and a reuse of an old building. The owner had invested quite a lot of money in it, obviously, and wanted to hurry up and get it leased to get their return on investment. So our role was to come in and do the due diligence on not only the actual physical construction, but also the contracts, the financials and everything as well. So we did that, and then we took over the construction. So we're construction managers. We engaged all of the subcontractors. We made sure the design was completed correctly. So we had designers in-house in some cases and externally to help us out. And we're about to achieve practical completion in the next 24 hours, which is a great outcome. And managing all the finances and the contractual relationship whilst the builder went into liquidation, and then we had to change builders from a registration point of view. So that's been a great outcome for the client. They have an anchor tenant now. We've been able to present it in such a way they could get an anchor tenant. And we could give them a practical completion date, which is fantastic.
Good outcome. Brilliant outcome. So let's backtrack a little bit.
Yep.
So you're working on the Geelong wool stores. What's the next step out of that? When did you end up working where you are now? How did that evolve?
Yeah, so from the wool stores at Geelong, moved to Melbourne, worked at a number of architectural practices, and as I mentioned, went to the State Library of Victoria. Then I was actually headhunted by Jones Lang LaSalle, real estate company, to look after their project management group for the southern region. And then from there, GFC hit. I was actually approached by engineering company in Melbourne to start up a property group, which was great because it allowed me to experience a new business, developing a new business, and then after that went back into corporate real estate at Colliers International. So during that time, realised that maybe I should be doing this for myself. Corporate, I'd experienced corporate life and found that the rewards on investment weren't as great as I would hoped. And I thought, let's give it a go. And it was later in life from an age point of view, but it was one night where I was pretty frustrated sitting around that dinner table, and my son said to me, "Dad, why aren't you doing this for yourself?" And everybody looked at me and said, "Well, we have been telling you this for quite a while." I said, "You idiot, let's have a go." So we did. It was great. And then I started out with a partner, business partner, who was my associate director at the time. And then about 4 years later, just before COVID, we disbanded that relationship from a business point of view. And then we started up ACT. So ACT is not ACT because that one was taken. But I was standing on the corner of a street and a bit frustrated about where we were at that time. I went, I just got to act. I just got to get on with things. So that's where that started.
That's where the name came from.
Yeah.
And you haven't looked back.
No, it's been great. Obviously, COVID was a bit tough, but we had some good, stable clients, good, stable work, and then coming out of COVID over the last sort of 9 months, we've been able to grow, and so we've been employing and growing our business and getting more relationships.
That's good. Now, Mark, I'm going to give Robert a magic wand here, and I've given you the keys to Geelong. From a building and architectural point of view, what would you change for the future of Geelong from that standpoint? Now, remember that Gareth Kent's one of our mates, and he has some very definite points of view.
Yeah. One thing that first comes to mind is we've got to stop looking at Europe as being a model. We're Australia and we're Geelong, and there are very obvious issues about planning management in just in vehicle infrastructure being able to access and get through Geelong. So it's pretty important to get that right from a traffic management point of view. I think density is the way to go. I think people are getting more used to denser living. I don't think it's the high rises. I think it's got to be a bit more Australian orientated. I don't want us to end up being something like Docklands. I don't think that's the right way to go. I think it's got to be more regional. But there's plenty of opportunity to bring life into the city, and it's pretty disappointing once you actually get south above Ryrie Street to see the lack of use of and the lack of occupation. It's quite sad. So I think there's a lot of opportunity there for development and denser development in the right way. So yeah.
That's good. What? How many in the team?
It's 4 of us,
Yep.
And then we bring in external contractors. So we've got contractors that are available over in Perth and also up in Queensland and New South Wales that we use as well, depending on the clients.
So you're Australia-wide, your services?
Yep.
Very
correct.
good.
Yes.
So a question that Bill normally asks, and this is the second time I've said this today.
That's right. Well, I'll retire now.
Yeah, that's okay. What's your leadership style? If we interviewed the guys in your office and your contractors and said, "What's Robert like?" What would they say?
I think, and I knew you were going to ask that question, and I still don't have a straight answer, but I think it's more about inclusivity, openness and honesty. I think it's no question is a dumb question. Everybody's learning, and we can learn off each other regardless of whether you've been out for 6 months or 35 years. So very supportive from a professional point of view. And also just understanding a work-life balance as well. I think there's got to be an understanding you've got to work hard, but then when you need support, it's there. And professionally, there's a lot to learn for everybody. So I will provide the opportunity for people to prove themselves and be in the background to support, to make sure that they've got that support.
Yeah, very good. And where do you see your business in 5 years?
I'd like to grow nationally from a service point of view, but have resources locally. We've done it before. We can do that. I would prefer to have a team that's tight-knit within an office. We are very much site-based and, we do a lot of travelling. But I'd like to be at least 10 people. Don't want to get too big. We want to make sure that the professionalism and the actual technical knowledge within the team is shared, and be good to have some good national ongoing relationships.
Is it hard to find the right qualified people?
Yes, it is. It's hard to actually get people to understand the need to actually grow within the team, but also grow with the team as well. There's a lot of money being thrown around out there for a small business. It's very hard to actually compete against that. So therefore, you've got to share the knowledge about the types of clients that we have and the access to the clients that they will have. They'll be able to develop their own little business within our business We've done that before in other companies that I've been in, and that's the way we'd like to do it. And I think you've got to sell that, and the qualifications is one thing. The stamina and the want to learn is another. Yeah.
All right, Robert, out of work, hobbies, sporting interests. What's your background there, and what do you do outside of work?
Well, yes. 32 years ago, I used to be I used to race bikes, cycles. So that's 30 years ago.
You still got two legs.
I still do. I still do. Yeah. I'd like to say I still like doing it, not racing, but like doing that. Do a bit of sailing. We used to have a little yacht, so we do a little bit of that, and just spending time with the family as well. Yeah.
I was going to say, when Robert told us his tipping point, Bill, it was the family dinner, wasn't it? When your own family said to you,
that's right.
"Why don't you do it for yourself?"
Yeah.
Because we often come across what makes people move or change, and that was yours. That was your family challenging you.
It's been interesting. It's self-confidence.
Yep.
It's a confidence that you've got the technical ability. You've just got to have the confidence to do it. And I think that's what it was.
You've got to be bold. Is my favourite word.
It is. It is.
You
Isn't it?
really do to make that move.
So, Robert, people listening, how do they get in contact with you? What's your website?
Yeah, so www.aktpm, so PM's for project management.com.
And you can contact you through the website or inquiry form on the website?
Yep. Definitely. So all our contact details are there, my mobile's there. I'm on LinkedIn as well, so it's Robert Sloan on LinkedIn. You can contact us. We have an office in Melbourne and an office in Geelong, so we're pretty flexible about timing and availability as well.
And your sweet spot for projects, what sort of size do you look for?
So we're looking, sort of $5 to $20 million projects, and it can actually be whether you're a tenant or whether you're an owner or an investor. We actually look at the initial feasibility of opportunities, as well as the design and the putting together of that business plan, and the design and the delivery. And we're actually looking at property facility management advisory as well. We're doing that for a client as well. So
okay.
End to end.
So you're slowly growing what you're doing.
Correct.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Well, we're looking forward to a changing skyline in Geelong, aren't we, Mark?
It is getting there. It is getting there.
Yeah, I think the future looks very good. And if we were having this conversation in 10 years' time, I think we would be having a slightly different discussion.
Possibly.
I'm sure.
Possibly.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Robert, thank you.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure to get to know you a bit better than standing in a laneway with the wind blowing up behind us.
Yeah, thank you, Robert. It's good to finally get hold of you and run this interview, and good luck for the future.
Thanks very much, guys. Thank you for your time.
Yeah.